Oh, wait a second. We didn't get the intro, right? But well, listen, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. There was a bit of a hiccup. I don't know if that was on my end or that was on YouTube's end, but we are live and BitCloud is here. BitCloud, what's up, brother? How the heck are you, man? Um, Welcome to Double Barrel Gaming's Breakfast with Boom. Of course, I am your host, Mr. BoomStick XL, and we have an incredible show for you today. Folks, we're going to be talking about, of course, Forza Horizon 5, just confirming yesterday that they have now over 10 million players. That is pretty incredible. That is a feat unlike anything before it. It has been confirmed that it is the quickest game to that number in the history of Xbox. In fact, I'm going to, you know what? Before I get into that, I got to introduce the guests first. I got to introduce the panel. And our guest comes to us. You know him very well. Fuzzy Belvedere, thank you so much for being on today's show. It was a bit of a late notification, but you're here. I very much appreciate it. How the heck are you?
Doing pretty good. Thank you for the invite. Man, just so much great news and just news in general in the gaming industry going on. I don't want to take up too much time, but thank you for having me on. And man, we got an awesome panel here today and awesome guests in the chat. So man, let's get right into it.
Yeah, absolutely. But real quick, before we get into it any further, I got to thank a new channel member. That's awesome. Duty Paid. Thank you so much for becoming a Double Barrel Gaming channel member. That really does help this channel grow. Thank you so much for that. First of all, let's welcome back in BitCloud. BitCloud, of course, you've been doing some absolutely incredible things on your channel. You just, besides hitting the 10,000 subscribers this year, which was monster. The guests that you've been lining up has just been incredible. And of course, you got some other things going behind the scene that I'm privy to that I can't say I'm so as proud as I am of you because you deserve it. How are you, man? Welcome.
I'm good, man. It feels great to be back in company of good company,
Thank you,
friends.
sir.
For those of you that missed the announcement, everybody in the chat, Big Cloud is now working with IGN.
Big deal.
So
That's awesome. Awesome.
I have been on I guess I've been on a different type of mindset these past couple of days. I've been all over the place. Content creation has been next to none on my part. I haven't been able to do anything. I've been so busy and just learning so much, getting to work with these guys and just seeing what goes on behind the scenes. It's really, really cool. So really, really awesome. And now I'm working on playthroughs for them. So we're doing a playthrough for San Andreas Definitive Edition.
Nice.
That's going to be on their show. So that's going to be cool. It's going to be on their platform. So yeah, it's been fun.
Well, it's well deserved. Congratulations once again. Love to
Thank
see
you.
it. It is a big deal. IGN is one of the biggest sites out there, and for you to be working with them on your channel says that you are doing it right. Yeah, I just got hit in the face with a warthog. Not good at all. But let's welcome.
I'm so mad. I see you guys playing it like nonstop. I only got to play like 6 or 8 matches with the guys when this came out, and I was like, oh god, I was getting upset. But it's fun though. It really is. It's great.
I got a chance yesterday to sit down for 2+ hours. So you can see the recorded footage, and of course I'm recording footage for the channel. I'm recording footage for so you guys can have gameplay and the stuff that I do. But I was having so much fun. Some of the matches I looked like a complete noob. Some of the matches I really did kick some ass, and I was very happy about that. But let's welcome back in VJ. Now, VJ obviously has recently joined the show, and it's been great for the show simply because he does bring his A game every time he is here. So, VJ, welcome back, brother. How are you?
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I see there's plenty of passion-inducing topics on your roster today, Boom.
Oh yes, for sure. Yeah, so I'm expecting some big opinions from you, but I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that I'm sure I didn't even have to ask you. You've had your spot of tea, so we know that you're going to be ready to deliver on these big topics. Because one of which is one that I have not, as a content creator, shied away from. That is what's the ongoings at Blizzard and Activision. Double Barrel Gaming has, from the beginning, denounced them as a company. I will not support them in any way, shape, or form for a lot of reasons. Forget the fact that I'm ex-law enforcement, and obviously the law is the law. So that's always been important to me, to maintain a level of integrity wearing the uniform that I did for so many years. But as a husband who values his wife more than his own personal self, my own personal life, I could not look Mrs. Boomstick in the face and feel the same way about how I handle myself as a content creator if I was going to support a company that protected people that were committing sexual assaults and misconduct. And we're going to get into that. And we're going to get into it because I've said from the beginning that I believed Bobby Kotick, or Kotick, I believe I was saying it wrong all the times, Bobby Kotick, knew about this. And that has been confirmed through a Wall Street Journal article. And obviously, I learned all of this by watching the last couple of videos from Rich from Review Tech USA. I love his work. A little controversial sometimes, but I love Rich. I've been watching him for years. And watching his last video made me kind of, open my eyes to some of the stuff that was going on. Some of the stuff I didn't even know was going on. So we're going to get into some of that. Now, we're not going to get into details because obviously for legal reasons, I can't speak on it because I'm not a part of the case. I am going to talk about what both Phil Spencer and Jim Ryan from PlayStation and Xbox have said publicly about this. And folks, I think Activision is going to have to make a big move much sooner than later, simply because the two biggest platforms in gaming have now taken a public stand. So I think that the hashtag was that.
I was about to say, did you hear the extra story that dropped yesterday too?
About the death threats?
No, well, not just that. There was a woman who was reportedly sexually assaulted by her supervisor.
Yes. Yeah, I did read about that. Yeah.
That was well.
Yeah.
That's
and when you hear, folks, I'll just tell you this right now before we get into the last introduction. When you hear the words settled out of court, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. There are some, usually NDAs are signed, contracts are signed not to discuss what happened, right? That's usually a sign of misconduct and wrongdoing, and they're looking to cover that up, so to speak. The short of it is to cover up something bad that happened, and that's what's probably happening here. But let's introduce someone that always brings it 100, keeps it 100 on every show that he's on, especially the Wilmy Hood Show weekly. Dreadpool, welcome back, brother. You've been off a couple of weeks. Obviously, real life has gotten in the way. It is amazing to have you back. Congratulations. Welcome back, brother.
Good morning, everyone. I'm being the D in the Dreadpool.
Yeah, you've been unreachable. Where you been, Dreadpool? You don't return my calls, my messages.
Just remember,
you go me to the wolves. What's up with that, huh?
Boom might have been a lawman, but I am the law.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it.
So yeah, I just been dealing with some personal stuff in life, and
yeah, real life stuff, dude.
It's just it is what it is. You can't control stuff, but I'm here. That's the most important thing, right? We're all here together. We're all here to hang out and speak our minds, and just meld with each other.
Well, listen, dude, it's great to have you back and a part of it. First of all, want to welcome in Project X Talk. This is a growing YouTube channel and podcast. They were really amazing to have me guest appear this Wednesday. And why it's amazing isn't just because they invited me, because who the hell is Mr. Boomstick? Nobody really. It's the fact that they moved the show, which is normally on Thursday, to accommodate a schedule for me. Because Wednesday was the only day we've been trying to get our schedules on, and it's been tough. I've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, some personal stuff handling it, and of course just continuing with the channel. So big shout out to, of course, them. Kay Asante has joined the ranks. Kay Asante, my brother. I wasn't sure if we were going to get you in this early. First of all, welcome back to the show. Kay Asante obviously is someone that you should be following. And more importantly, you should be subscribing to his channel, because his show on Saturday mornings has seen some incredible record growth. And I want to see 300 people in his chat. I honestly want to see that, because what him and Everborn do every week on the Gaming Circle podcast is just bring fun to the conversation. So if you're not subscribed, get over there and subscribe to this man. But good morning, dude.
Good morning. Good morning. And speaking of the Gaming Circle podcast, we have one BitCloud Gaming showing up. Pulling up on Saturday. So yeah, it's gonna be something. Yeah, indeed.
That's pretty awesome. That is pretty awesome. So yeah, so again,
I can't game. I have IGN on my back that I have guys going, let's play, let's talk some games. Like, okay.
No, you gotta deliver the big boy. You've been called up, brother. So you gotta you pitched a no-hitter in the small leagues. Now they brought you up, and now you gotta do it all over again.
I gotta say, I appreciate the man for pulling up. This is gonna be an awesome conversation. I'm looking forward to the show.
I've been looking forward to the show for the longest. I was like, this dude's he invites everybody. He invites Boom. Boom has this little crazy little.
No. I don't invite Boom. I don't invite Boom. He just pulls up.
Where's my offer? Huh? Where's my offer?
That all truth. I am an invader.
Which is how I like it. He just pulls up. Hey, I want to talk. Let's do it. It's all good.
Like Mrs. Boom, I feel so bad for her. She's not a director. She's the assistant director, and she's doing a lot of director stuff. So she's bringing a lot of work home, which, what am I going to say? I got to support her in everything that she does. So she brings work home. So a lot of the times on Saturday mornings, after we've done our walks, we've had our breakfast, she's sitting there and she's kind of just tidying up a few things for work to make sure that Monday's super easy for her. And while she's there, I'm like, hey, send me the invite. So there you go. That's how I get in on these things.
This man Boom be coming out the shadows like Xerxes.
100%. Guys, watch this footage. I'm nasty in this thing. I think I got about 8 or 9 kills using this thing. And if you can't kill anybody using this monster of a scorpion tank, then you are really a terrible player. But
how you feel about the progression system in this one?
I thought it was a problem.
You think so too? Yeah,
I thought it was a problem. Because when you play a game, right, regardless of how good or bad you are, there's got to be progression. But to 343's credit, I got to be honest with you, they did address it. It's much better. It still need tweaks. Look at, I hit that guy point blank in the face. So I don't know who it was, but listen, don't come for me.
I know how they're charging for like the camos and stuff like that, like the colors of your suits and all that. You know what I kind of hope they do if they are gonna really go out with this? Do something cool like Call of Duty did with like the animated stuff. If you can, that'd be cool for Halo. That would be better for the game.
Look, this is the first entry in free to play.
Right?
So there's gonna be some bumps in the road, but they are ahead of it. We all, and I say we as a community, we went out and we gave our feedback, and they immediately addressed it. They immediately addressed the issue.
It's surprising how quickly they responded.
It's
quite surprising.
Yeah. So
yes, we're still in the beta, so you got to remember this is not at the official launch.
That is absolutely correct. So we're
actually proud of how smooth it ran, though. For the in this day, it's very smooth. Yeah, it's very smooth.
It's very good. It's sometimes it feels weighty, sometimes it feels floaty. But they've narrowed it down, and then with them listening and coming back. But people are acting like this is a full-on launch game. This is a beta. This isn't the 100%.
Absolutely, and that's what we got to take into account. But I absolutely agree 100%, Dreadpool. I think that's a great point. That yes, this is still a beta. The official release doesn't come until December 8th, but I just want to shout out our good friend. This is a brother of the channel, has supported me and Mrs. Boom since the beginning. Smitty Smith says, Good. Here comes the Boom. Good morning, everyone. Boom. Your last video was well thought out and fantastic. I felt the exact same way. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. Yeah, there was I dropped a new entry into Double Barrel Gaming because folks have been asking for some video on demand content that are not 2-hour podcasts.
Oh, we're finally doing it.
Yes. I launched it. I launched it last week. It's called Xvlog. It's
nice.
Me in front of the camera, basically taking on one Xbox topic, and it usually is shot from the hip. There's no notes. It's just me talking to the camera. It's usually 10 or 15 minutes. This particular week was 28 minutes, and I actually did bring some notes simply because there was just way too much to remember. So obviously I got an old man brain, so I got to make sure that I come with the facts. And I actually wound up making one mistake, which the public is the public. They're going to let you know about yourself. I said that the Game Awards have never nominated a first-person shooter, where of course I was incorrect. They did nominate Doom was one of them, and that other shooter that I don't play back in 2016, I think it was Overwatch, got wound up winning, I think, Game of the Year. So those were the two, but driving games never have been nominated, and I want to get into that for a hot second. Now, look, just to give everyone the heads up, we have almost 200 people already here. As a podcaster, as a host, this is the last time I'm going to talk about this on the show, because I don't want people to get bored of the channel, like, oh my God, Boom's talking about this shit again, and whatever. I'm still going to keep on the fight, and the fight that I'm talking about is seeing the most egregious move in what I believe to be Game Awards history, and that's Forza Horizon 5 not being in that category. Now, yes, they did get nominated for Best Sports/Racing, right? That was a given. They got nominated for Best Audio Design, which I agree. The audio was just phenomenal. They also got nominated, and this is a good one, and it's a big one, Innovation in Accessibility. I think that's super important because the accessibility options are just tremendous, right? And those are great. That's great. It's going to be in that the players, the gamers' voices category, which is going to have 20 games. And we pick 100% of it. I said in my video, and I'll add that video in the card so you can check it out. Which just, again, surprising because the channel's still small, 3,000 views. That's a lot for a new series, right? You don't know how people are going to take it. I called it in that garbage. It's a garbage category. I still stand by that. I think it's kind of like, hey, we just needed to do something. So the 20 games that didn't, here you go. But again, watch the video. It's very candid. There's no scripts. It's just me being raw. And again, being raw, I got something wrong. So of course I just told you about that. I will say this. Looking through the socials last night, I realized that Forza Horizon 5 had now crossed 10 million players. This comes to us from Zachary Booty, or Body, I should say, of Windows Central Gaming. He posted the article where he states Forza Horizon 5 crosses 10 million players as the largest Xbox Game Pass launch ever. And I have the tweet directly from the official Twitter account of Forza Horizon, and they say simply this. Thank you to the more than 10 million Forza Horizon 5 fans for the biggest first week in Xbox history. And, of course, the biggest Xbox Game Pass game to launch ever. This now sits on 25,000+ likes, 864 quote tweets, and 3,438 retweets. Folks, this further cements my ridiculous crusade. Now, look, I want to just say this, right? There are a lot of people in this community that are not on this panel, that most of us will not watch, that do these things for clicks and likes, and they flip-flop. Now, we're not mentioning names because we don't do that. We're a classy kind of podcast, right? But you know who they are. You don't get that here. What you get is someone that considers himself a part of this industry, regardless of how small I am, and regardless of how small someone is. I was saying this into Fuzzy in the green room. I don't care whether you have 2 subs or 2 million subs. Your opinion matters. If you're doing it for the right reason, if you're doing it because you want to see active change, your opinion matters. Not to be trolly, not to be a D-bag, not to try and get subs because you want to make money on the back end of
or attention.
Or obviously pushing a hate narrative, which I can't stand. I really frown upon that. I don't like a hate narrative at all. It bothers me as a person. I'm not a big fan of it. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to go first to our guests, and both of our guests, because first I'm going to go to Fuzzy, but Keasante, I know that you're going to be talking about this in a big way, and I don't want to skew your incredibly lined up podcast for Saturday, because I'm going to be tuning in with big ears and big eyes, so I cannot wait to hear what you have to say. But Fuzzy, we know for a fact that driving games and racing games in general, that's your jam. That's your jam. Okay. And, obviously I've been extremely public about my distaste for Forza Horizon 5 being left out of the Game of the Year category. I've done it with class. I'm not blocked by Jeff. Jeff hasn't responded to me, which he's, not inclined to do so. He's a very busy man. He's the producer of the Game Awards. So I hear him, and I'm not offended at all. I hope that he did, maybe read my tweet, because it, again, was done with class and precision, because that's how I operate. I'm not going to curse and scream and make death threats or anything like that. We've seen that happen, unfortunately. That does happen. Just don't be one of those people. Otherwise, I will block you. I don't like that, and I will not support that kind of behavior either. But I got to ask, with what we knew already, cemented this morning with the 10 million plus players, the biggest release for Xbox Game Pass, which has only been around since the summer of 2017. But this is the stat: the biggest release in Xbox history. Well, we just celebrated, and I say we as a community. I don't care if you're a PlayStation guy now. If you had an experience with Xbox and you enjoyed yourself, you were part of the celebration that we had on Monday. The simple question is, how much longer can the Game Awards ignore what many are calling to be an egregious mistake?
We were talking about this earlier. Just imagining being on like the playground, dev team. It's demotivating to some extent to put your blood, sweat, and tears into your work, and come up with a better iteration each time you release a game, add more innovation to it, add more of what the fans have been asking for, and it still doesn't get considered beyond the niche that it already kind of, I don't want to say it rules that niche, but it kind of does, considering how often they're able to turn their games around. A lot of those that are in that same genre don't seem to do the annualized thing, other than some of the, the more traditional sports games, which, let's be clear, with EA, it's more of a cut and paste kind of thing in a lot of cases, not to slight them, but we've seen evidence of that. But in the grand scheme of things, it just seems like a great disservice to kind of ignore, like you were saying earlier, the elephant in the room. It should come to a point where if a game entertains you the entire time that you're sitting in front of your TV or monitor and you're playing it, it should be up for consideration regardless of the genre. So a game that reaches out or crosses more lines as far as people that aren't really into racers or aren't really into driving games, or picking this up, playing for hours, having fun, trying to, either get higher scores on the leaderboard, get more signs, find more roads, collect more cars, do a cool paint scheme, all kinds of things. When it reaches that many gamers on so many different levels, it should be in the running. I understand there's timing matters and deadlines and such, but I think you were on point where you were saying before. Maybe it's time for the awards to kind of move its time frame for to consider everything within the year that it's going to be game of the year.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it just seems like, I hate to say it, business as usual, or the quota, or not quota, but the status quo, where this is an industry where we're right around the corner from the holidays. We want to sell game, or the industry wants to sell more games, and having that game of the year label just before Black Friday, or not before Black Friday, but at least during the holiday shopping season, definitely helps push those sales. But it just feels like a slap in the face, and I know I would be demotivated if I was part of that team. I don't know. I just hope at some point they find a way to remedy this for future. I know the deadline thing that was brought up with the report or response to Jez's article and stuff like that definitely plays at hand. But I gotta say, there's going to be a couple more games that come out towards the later part of this year that probably also should be considered, but not as many people are going to want to remember those titles for this time next year. So it's always one of these, six in one hand, half a dozen in the other kind of thing. But yeah, it's just disappointing to see that they overlooked this game that reached so many people and so many people are enjoying, and I don't know if it's records in the industry, but records at least for that type of genre.
Yes, knocking down doors is basically what they've done, and they've done it in a way that is going to make this one of the most memorable releases in Xbox history. I don't know how a game with that kind of, I mean, again, we talked about it before. There comes a point where the checklist or the check marks for said title, regardless of what genre, regardless of what platform, there are just so many there's so many checks on this list that it's honestly hard to ignore that this again, this is a mistake. Now I'm not expecting Jeff to get out there and say I made the mistake, but please continue.
No, I think they should at least reevaluate some of their timings of things, and hopefully going forward not make a decision that kind of makes a lot of people question not really the validity of the show, but just whether it's something they want to watch. Because like right now, a lot of people admittedly want to watch it for trailers and upcoming releases and things like that. But it's a nice way to bring attention to those in the industry, that make the games that we enjoy and stuff for our hobby. But they definitely should take more things into consideration, as opposed to overlooking something just because of it being quote unquote niche compared to some more mainstream items. That's all I got.
100%. Keasante, you brought to my attention what I deemed on the socials as one of the best written articles of 2021, and I'm talking about the article from Jez Corden, who's a friend of obviously of this show specifically, but a friend of the community, and obviously is a part of the Xbox 2 podcast with a friend of the show, Randolph 419. It was incredibly written. It was respectively written. More importantly, the points are something that you and I were talking about, and he actually said he wrote it the way we felt. Like, hard to do that.
100%.
Real
100%.
hard to do what he did, and he did it. Please, by all means, with the new numbers.
Yeah.
I mean, how much longer can we ignore this?
It's funny. He wrote it the way that I was feeling without all the expletives. Yeah. So I appreciate the man for channeling my frustration. And let me be clear. And this, of course, will be a preview of what myself and Mr. BitCloud and Everborn will be talking about on Saturday. Cheap plug.
That's shaky, sir. That's shaky.
Take the game in question out of it. Forza will be fine. 10 million players, they're gonna be all right.
Yeah,
it's not a problem. This is not to throw them a bone or they need it. No. What upsets me about this whole thing is these guys, and by guys, this organization being the Game Awards has been anointed as the stalwart, the place where awards get handed out, the place where, you know, that's where you go to receive your accolades for your hard work. And we as the gamers have all agreed to give them that responsibility, right?
Yes.
We all do it. We watch, whether you watch it for the light E3-ness of it, or you watch it because yeah, that's right. You know, whether you watch it for that or you watch it because it's important for somebody to get recognized, it doesn't matter. Your viewership and you're talking about it and you're interfacing with it, that makes them the de facto gatekeepers, if you will, of this part of the gaming industry.
Very well said.
These moves make me upset that they are the gatekeepers. It doesn't matter whether it's Forza or it's any old game. The fact that it's a game should be the end-all, be-all of that conversation. And more, it's seeming like those people who we've entrusted with all of this have agendas that they keep twisting the knife on all the time. And that's just not right.
It's like a template, and you think about it. It's like a template that they don't really shy from, you know what I mean? Like, for example, if it's a AAA budget game like like Red Dead 2, right? That's instantly going to be up for a lot more accolades than any other game on there.
Yes.
God of War, it was in more categories just as Red Dead 2. So they have their picks where it's like, okay, they're like, okay, obviously this game had the higher budget, so I'm going this case. So if they have the higher budget, this deserves more of the recognition for that. You know, it shocked me though, and people were like arguing with me in my chat about this. They was like, hey, Big Cloud, how come you don't feel that Returnal got snubbed? You know, you interviewed the developers. I'm like, well, here's the thing. If I remember correctly, Returnal didn't get the insane reception that would garner a Game of the Year accolade.
Yeah,
it was well received by those who played it. Right. But keep in mind, a lot of people who did play it also didn't have amazing experiences.
As of today's show, BitCloud, as of today's show, they have just surpassed 700,000 copies. So.
And that's another thing you got to take into account too. Now, I don't know if y'all remember. I don't know if you remember my interview with Chris Grinnell. Remember Metacritic and Sales? That's another thing that paints a picture into this. A lot of people want to say, "Oh, 700,000 is amazing for the PS5." Is it though? Is it really?
Well, they have 15 million
that
consoles.
went into that game. Yeah. You got to base it off of the hype dudes put into these games.
Exactly. So I have a theory. I have a theory with your template talk, and you're very right in that aspect. I have a theory that, and myself and Everborn had this conversation before, so forgive me if anybody's heard it before, but we think the reason why there's an opposite way they move versus the Oscars, you know, the Oscars always wants to pick the outhouse, the art house movie, right? The one that no one's heard of before. Oh, the weird cerebral picture versus the AAA budget. I think it's because the Game Awards as an organization wants to bring gaming. They want to bring the respect of gaming to Hollywood. They want Hollywood to look at the gaming industry as, hey, you guys should respect us. Look at the budget. Look at the output.
That should be all
exactly. Exactly. They want to take The Last of Us 2 and bring it to Hollywood.
Yeah, me and Boom, we're big fans of the franchise. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, 100%.
We hated part two. I'm gonna move that all to the side. But even when you look at that game, I mean, you base it off of what is trending and media, right? And how they go about these movies and the quote unquote, I don't want to say woke, right? Because that's not really the word for this, but I'll say the ambitious sort of stuff they try to go for.
Yes.
They're trying to put that into these gaming shows, and that's what they want to award more so versus the
because that then brings Hollywood to gaming. That then makes Hollywood look at gaming and go, hey, maybe this is something we should invest in. Something like that. That
look at the
seems
line.
To be the agenda.
Look at the line right now. Look at the blur. The line is more blurred than it's ever been.
Yep.
If you look at the Spider-Man new trailer that we just got for the movie, now
it might as well be the game.
You look at that and go back to Spider-Man 2018. You know they're about to go over the top with 2023. Yes. That's essentially what you see in games, and that's what they want. They want that, and they want it.
And if that's what's happening here, then say that and be real with it. Don't say these games are being put up for their merit, because everything you're doing is going the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And it could be Forza this month, this year. It could be another game next year. If it's a game and this is the Game Awards, shut up and give them that award, and stop saying, "Well, you have the viewer's choice." All of it should be the viewer's choice, because we're the gamers.
Yeah, that's another thing that kind of weird too, because you look at some of these nominees. It's like Life is Strange 3. I don't remember anybody talking about Life is Strange, this new one. I heard good things, sure, but I haven't heard people like hype it up like this is a return to form. This is the thing. Like no. Clearly, somebody played that and was like, you know what? We got to just include. We got to put that on the list. Like, okay, listen, you like that? You like that.
So that's my point.
This. Yeah, but I always looked at it like this, and I said this with you last time, Boom, when we had this conversation similar when we looked at the nominees. Right? This is Jeff's show. Jeff clearly just is gonna push whatever the hell he wants at this point. And I know that might sound like a cop out that I'm saying that, but it's really not. The dude really has the reins. He's gonna push.
He has an agenda.
Whatever the hell he wants.
Whatever it is,
he clearly shows what fits in his bubble. Erasers are not in his bubble. He doesn't like racers.
It's interesting that you say that. Alana Pierce. Obviously, I think everybody knows who she is. She used to work at IGN. Now she's independent, right? She's doing her own thing, and she's doing quite well for herself. She
actually works for Sony Santa Monica now, I think.
Yeah, she does. Yeah. She actually said something pretty interesting in a video that she dropped regarding the Game Awards. It was a pretty eye-opening video. She dropped it, I believe it was yesterday. Someone had dropped it into my DM, and their name escapes me. I apologize tremendously. I watched it, and what she said was interesting. She was a judge. She's been a judge for several years. She actually said, and I quote, that people on this panel, this Illuminati level panel, don't even have to play the game.
Yeah.
Now, I heard that, and I actually rewound it. I was like, wait a second. I'm mopping and cleaning, because I'm cleaning the house while I'm listening to the stuff. I listen to my
Is it really hard to really think about that? I mean, really think about it.
But I had to make sure.
Stuff.
I had to
Elden
make sure.
Ring is on this. Actually, matter of fact, let me remove Elden Ring, right? Let me remove Elden Ring. Let me remove the Forza. Let me remove the games that we know that's on the list, right? One game that's on this list that should immediately open everybody's eyes to how weird this whole show is: Cyberpunk. Why is Cyberpunk even?
They got several nominations.
Exactly. The game did not work at launch. They removed it from stores, et cetera, et cetera. Why is that even being awarded?
It got nominated for the most amount of. But that's why they didn't get nominated.
And here's the thing. You can say that, okay, it didn't get nominated last year, and now it can get nominated this year. And to that, I say Jedi Fallen Order, good sir. That game launched perfect. Didn't get nominated the year before, and was forgotten the year after.
That's a perfect example. I'm glad you mentioned. I forgot all about that. That game got snubbed that year that it came out, 100%. And we still haven't seen that game on a stage, and that's criminal. That game was one of the best Star Wars games I played in a long time. It was amazing.
In a long time. Everyone can agree to that. Yeah.
Even the reveal, y'all know what I'm talking about. At the end, the reveal, they killed it. Yeah. But again, this is what I'm talking about, though. And this goes back to that blurred line, Asante. That blurred line between Hollywood and what you're seeing can be done with video games, and them trying to merge that. This is why you got TV shows like The Last of Us, which I'm not going to watch, by the way. I'm not watching that trash. You got Spider-Man with the movies, now with the games. You got that blurred line. You got, wasn't there one for Halo? Wasn't Halo's?
The Halo's coming out next year.
TV show. But you see how I'm going with this, right? There's blurred lines, and those get more.
Well, and let me be clear, though. Let's be clear here, though. There's nothing wrong with that if that is your purpose in this. If you're here trying to be like, look, I'm trying to show Hollywood that we deserve attention, and maybe our movies will start getting better, like video games movies will get better and all that, because here, just like comic books are now, right? Comic books are there now, right? Hey, that is your choice. You, Jeff Keighley, have the ability, have the resources to do so. Good on you. but don't use the gaming public as your political football to make these balls and strikes. This is terrible.
Yeah.
You know, be clear and honest about your intentions instead of saying this is the Game Awards for its merit and then shaft games left and right because they don't fit your narrative. That's ridiculous. So what I think,
I agree.
Then finally, what I think is people who are listening to this, who are as outraged as I am with this, we need to start dethroning these kings. They no longer deserve, don't deserve the gatekeeping that we give them. Yes. You know, we need some other outlets. We need some other people that will call them right. You know, if you don't like Meta, there's OpenCritic, right? Where is the alternative? We need a better alternative. That's all I'm saying. Go ahead.
So I said, like, people want E3 going. I'm like, no, we don't need E3 going. We don't need to have a monopoly with Jeff Keighley being the spot for game review or game console review. So I'm saying we don't need that. We need alternatives. We need that show to be revamped.
We got our alternative coming back. I don't know if you all remember, but G4 is making a comeback.
Yeah,
I do see them. I see them out there.
I see them, but I gotta see.
Yeah, I'm skeptical right now. I'm skeptical.
I'm more the old school. Like before, back then, they weren't crazy high production with G4. They were just simple. They kept, I mean,
they were bootstrapped.
They were in the studio. They kept it straightforward. They had a little monitor here that showed the gameplay. And then the camera goes to it. That's it. That's all they gotta do. But we get this, and they try some over-the-top production type thing. It's going to feel forced. It's not going to feel like the same thing.
I feel like they have some conglomerates behind them that we might not want to trust. You know, you never know. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see. Well, I'm looking at them, but I'm looking at it with the side eye.
I'm excited. Don't get me wrong, Dred. I agree with you, Dred. I'm excited. I think KS90 is excited too, but I'm really skeptical.
You look at the old cast, okay, and I know they're not the new cast, but you look at the old cast and how
the chemistry,
how much respect they garnered because they were being truthful over the games. They weren't being fanboys. They weren't being opinionated. They just spoke the facts and kind of went from there, right? And they had fun with it, you know, and that's the beauty of it. That's what made it different. And then when we lost it, we all cried about it, right? Because we're like, oh, we lost it, and here we have the Game Awards, and we're being hopeful that finally we got something back on so that we can have it on TV. We can have it this way, and obviously it's not TV, but it's hopeful for us to have that part of what we had before, but obviously we know it's not the same. We know it's never
a lot of people don't understand how good we had it back then. I'm talking Morgan Webb and Adam Sessler were as real as they could possibly be. I'm talking when the PS3 launched, they were right there with us, clowning the hell out. That's just like, what is it worth it? You know what I mean? Is it worth it? Like, what do you have to show? Like, they were up front. You don't see that anymore.
Well, Big Cloud, I will say, to your point, Adam Sessler being back on G4 now kind of gives me a little bit of hope because he's always been a non-BS kind of dude. He will not stand for that stuff.
No,
so that kind of gives me a bit more hope for G4, the new iteration of it.
Politics. We don't know if there's politics
we don't know
behind this one versus
we don't know. That's
what we had before. Remember, it was a whole new ball game back then. They had different things. Now we're in a new millennia at this point, and it feels like, and everybody has like these little scapegoats in these contracts where they can get X amount of things done and stop you from saying X amount of things. So I don't really know. I mean, again, I'm hopeful that it's the same show. I really am. So we'll see. But
yeah, I mean, we certainly will. But you know what? I want to bring VJ into the conversation, and then we will get Dreadpool, and we will then, of course, move on to a more serious topic, one that has now made its way to mainstream gaming in the form of Xbox and PlayStation making public opinions about this, public statements, I should say. But I want to thank the super chats that have come in. Brian Hopkins drops the first one of the day for $5. Says, good morning, Boom and crew. What a great way to start off the day, hanging out with some of the coolest folks around. Thank you for the show. Well, thank you for the compliment, but more importantly, thank you for the support. We also have Raiden Blade drops not one, but two super chats. The first one of $5 says, my question is, where are all those journalists that give Forza Horizon 5 10s across the board didn't vote on this too? Yeah, see, that's a great point. A lot of people were saying, well, wait a second. If this is picked by journalists, right? Again, this Illuminati level board of journalists that supposedly picked these six games, these 6 nominees, and Forza wasn't a part of them, if that in fact is the truth, in fact, if that is in fact the case, what happened to the highest reviewed game of the year at 91 versus 88 being the highest on this list, 84 being the lowest? See, this is, again, it's a bit of a conundrum, and it does set a terrible precedence for whether or not, or how serious we can take the Game Awards. I mean, that's the reality. And again, as folks, I want you to understand something. I have seen the arguments that people are like, oh, this is just angry fanboys from Xbox. No, I really think that this, VJ, this falls into the conversation of what's right is right.
See, that's agenda pushing. What you just said. That's just agenda pushing. What you just said, like the way dudes spin that.
Yes.
Because when I did a live stream on that yesterday, I had dudes expressing their same concern. Only it was for Returnal.
Yes.
So again,
now Returnal could be considered a snub, right? That can be considered a snub because there are many of them. So. I don't agree either. But if you liked it and it didn't show up, that can be considered a snub because there have been many in its category that have been featured.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I love the Order 1886. Boom loves the Order 1886.
I love the Order 1886.
Okay, but guess what? Guess what? We love it, but the vast majority
there'll never be 1887, which is a travesty.
It'll never be 1887, and it'll never be a game of the year. But you get, I'm going with that. You know, you can say it's your game of the year in your top 10, sure. But versus the vast majority in terms of the worldwide reception, Returnal did not hit the numbers, nor did it hit the pop that was necessary to garner accolades like game of the year. It just didn't do that. And people need to understand that. Like, not every game Sony dropped did that. Hell, I don't even think Ratchet and Clank did that.
I agree. I think it's a beautiful version of the same game.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Ratchet and Clank's amazing. Like the haptics and all that stuff. This is cool. It's great. It gets you in the game. But guess what? After you beat the story, that's it. There's not much else to it. There's not much else. There's no more appeal. When you beat the story, when you see the credits, all the appeal is gone, and there's no much else. Unless you're a completionist like me, odds are you turned the game off and you moved on to another game. And that's the thing people need to understand. You know, game of the year, if I was to look at that list, and I said this live, and people were shocked by me, but some people say I was biased because I interviewed the entire cast, but no, it has nothing to do with the interviews. Literally, if I was to say game of the year, it would have to be Resident Evil Village. That felt like the most next-gen game that we got in a long time.
No.
And that was it felt like Resident Evil 4 in first person.
Yeah. Well, listen. Let me get VJ in the conversation. VJ, you've heard our complaints. Are they legitimate? Where do you personally?
Yeah, my bad. We're hijacking the topics. My bad.
No, that's all right. No, it's this is a conversational podcast. That's what we do. But where do you fall on this? Seeing the accolades that this title has received.
Someone mentioned the Order 1886. It's set in Whitechapel, the place where I was born. So that brought a right smile.
I know you were foaming at the mouth when you saw that. So it still looks good to this day. Still looks good.
It's beautiful. Yes,
looks good to this day.
I thought I'd throw in that little bit of trivia for you. Look, Boom. I'm not. I've heard everybody's complaints, and look, I'm not well read in on the situation, but I think I've got the gist of it. I've played Forza 5 extensively, so I hope that qualifies me to speak. So I might go on a bit, so bear with me. So we're talking about, the games and their nominations and so on and so forth. Look, I don't know what the slew of criteria actually is, and if it's carefully followed in terms of how you go about to determining your nomination for a category, or let alone a game of the year contender. But you would think that at least you'd have to play the game, right, in order to be qualified to vote, right, on a specific nomination category. So, and just to set sort of all emotion aside, I think it's really important that the approach has to be holistic and whole, where preference and thought doesn't interfere at all. And then you've got to look at Forza 5, and ask yourselves the question, right? Because we're kind of discovering this together, right? Does Forza 5 really outperform or encompass to any degree, the other nominated games and past nominated winners in terms of imagination, intuition, flair, literature, art, design, music, voiceovers, animations, character performance, technical and graphical advancement, especially when it comes to a first-party title? Does it sort of encapsulate mystery, majesty, and splendor? Does it inspire? Will it reside in your heart and mind as a profound experience for years to come, when someone unequivocally asks you sometime down in the future, at some point down in the future, where what are your top 5 or 10 games? Is it a redefining sequel over its predecessor? And above all, for me personally, does it harness originality, creative individuality, genius, or spirit? And look, it's 7 o'clock in the morning over here, and I'm kind of waking up, but the chat's managed to do that a little bit for me. And I think that these are just some of the questions that should shape the validity of a nomination. Again, without emotion and attachment. Look, we've talked about, someone mentioned budgets and reputation of studios and sales numbers, let alone unexamined, engagement numbers. But that doesn't come into it for me. And if that was the case, then Call of Duty, FIFA would win almost every year, with the exception of Animal Crossing New Horizons. So look, as I understand it,
one of my favorite, Mrs. Boomstick's favorite game of this year. So go figure.
Boom. You know what? If that game had won the game of the year, it would be a unanimous vote, right? I mean, everyone would be happy. But it's such a feel-good, sort of feel-good factor game. And look, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not as well versed as the guys on the panel and people in the chat. As I understand it, over 100 outlets or individuals or whatever of prestigious media firms have voted on this year's nominees, and hopefully they are, we would hope, right, observant and serious people. But you've kind of thrown that into doubt, Boom, with the fact that perhaps some of these people that are voting haven't played the game. So that kind of, I don't know, irritates me a little bit. But look, clearly, with what I'm saying, or I guess what I'm trying to say, you need a lot of time to consider each and every nomination. That if you have the privilege of doing so. Yes. And the way you got to look at this, right? Since the debate, this current debate over Forza 5 can, let's be honest, it can continue endlessly or ceaselessly, right? And what you're practically doing is entering, a war of attrition. And if we can all agree on the attrition point, then you can perhaps understand, based on the limitation of knowledge, as knowledge always sort of resides in the shadow of ignorance, right? And as to why it doesn't quite dissolve or didn't make the cut as a cast iron justifiable nomination, if not in your mind, then at least in the minds of the 100+ voters and the ones that count, right? And the other thing I would say is, anyone actually reached out to the developer PGG, as to their opinion, if they're perturbed or even interested in this sort of ongoing situation. I would suggest they couldn't care less. And I would point to what Kay Asante alluded to. It's not exactly terminal to their trajectory, or Xbox for that matter, right? And I think we can all agree on that. And I think I think Kay Asante also mentioned something about dethroning. Look, if you want positive change, this all relates to possibly to another topic we're going to talk about later. It has to be brought about objectively, logically, and above all, appropriately so, without conditioned knowledge accumulated over time. You want to change, you want action, then this demands pursuit. And I know you're doing that, Boom, and I respect that. But no matter, or I shouldn't say but, there is no but really. No matter how much you deny it, though, it also, to a degree, for every human being, it always invokes, when you're driving for something, it always invokes agendas, preference, narratives, my color, my country, my religion, or this, or in this case, my plastic box and its exclusives, and so on and so forth. And you have to be careful. And that's why I really appreciate being on this channel, because you cover very difficult topics that sometimes I don't come away from, answering them and come away unscathed. But if not handled correctly, Boom, it will lead to division, which leads to inevitable conflict. And conflict, if you haven't realized, wears out and destroys the brain. Whether it's for me, there was one other thing, Boom. I hope you don't mind me mentioning, right? And it was just about the indie gamer, a good friend of the show. Actually,
he's a great friend of the show, great friend of the community for that matter.
And you said something right at the beginning of this topic before everybody piled in. Is in terms of, you mentioned class or being classy. I only go to the indies timeline to see what new games I should potentially be playing, right? And I was disappointed to see some of the reaction to indie gamers' sort of logical and considered questions as to why Forza 5 is not a Game of the Year nominee. And as I say, he's a good friend, he's not just a good friend, he's probably a great friend of this show. And,
yes.
And if there was any counter arguments that I came across that were leveled at him, it was just thoughtless, impassioned, self-serving, defensive.
Yeah, I read some of them. Some of them were to say that they were disappointing would be an understatement, considering that if you follow the indie gamer, he's not a trendsetter, right? He doesn't go out of his way to make a statement because he wants subs or people to follow him. No. He said what he felt, and you know what? It's his opinion. You don't have to, have to agree, but you also don't got to be a jerk about it.
I think the point that I'm trying to make here, Boom, is in alignment with you. It was just, as I say, it was impassioned, self-serving, defensive, biased, and preference-led sort of opinions and retorts at best, all very, very, very superficial. And there was no actual considered or stimulating logic to open up any sort of worthwhile topics of discussion or avenue of dialogue. And I just see jealousy, anxiety, attachment, and possessiveness when I skim over drivel from members of the community, and it's really, and people that I've actually communicated with, right? And sometimes when I see this sort of stuff, just my mind just spins away, and there's more important ideas to discuss, like, I don't know, like the degeneration of the world in itself, right? And perhaps which many seem to facilitate on Twitter. Anyway, that's me done.
No, listen, great stuff as always. What can I say? I almost feel bad for Dreadpool having to follow that, because that was great. Dreadpool, listen.
You can just debunk everything I said.
No,
I will.
Dreadpool is as real as they come, and that's why I love having him a part of this program, because he's not vying for a sub or a like, and I don't think any of us here are. We do that through the content that we produce. That's how we want to be remembered. That's how we want to be supported. I don't want to be supported because I added Jeff Keighley, and and again, I politely explained my distaste. No cursing, no threatening, no reason for him to block me, and he has not. So obviously I'm doing it the right way. But Dread, everyone on the panel so far has brought some incredible points. I have not talked with you since this. I didn't get a chance. I was only in the chat list on Wednesday's show with Wilmy Hood, and I didn't know if you guys covered it because I was listening in the background, because I like giving views even if I don't listen at the time. Where do you personally fall? Because you've always seemed to be in the same camp as me in integrity. What's right is right, and what's wrong is wrong. I actually don't care how you slice this, and I don't care what piece of plastic you worship or you love more than the other. This is wrong. This sends a really bad message to the industry. I've said that in my video. I think it sends a bad message to Playground Games, and more so just the gaming, the gaming universe as a whole. Where do you personally fall on the snub?
I think what it does is it brings a bad light to the industry, right? We've all basically said that, and none of us really want to talk about it like this, right? We want to be able to talk about it and be able to praise the good stuff, right? But we got to call out the bad stuff, and this is part of the thing. And I really don't want to talk about this, but at the same time, it needs to be, it needs to be said. Okay.
Go ahead, Dreadpool. Go for the moon.
All right. So I don't know if you all noticed, but the best sim strategy game, right? 2 of Microsoft's games, right? I'm just going to compare the 2. Now you tell me how the 2 are comparable to be in a category to compete with each other, right? Ages of Empire 4 and Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Yes.
Okay. 2 totally different genres, 2 totally different demographics, and they're still going for this, right? So they're still going for this one spot. Now,
a quick side note there, Dread.
Yes.
Have you noticed that that Flight Sim is back on the list when it was on the list last year?
No,
Flight Sim was nominated last year, and now it's back on. Yes, it's true that it's on console now, but many games have been on one thing and then been on the other thing next year, and they still don't reconsider it. It's either there once and then it never comes back. This is on there twice.
Right. So that's very odd. I mean, well, did they clarify that this is there for PC? Is it?
I'm just inferring that it has to be because it's on console, but there's no reason for it to be back on the list again.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that. But thanks for catching it. But my whole thing is I want more transparency, right? We know Phil Spencer is on the board that votes on this, right? We know, so it's not like, oh, it's everybody's anti-Microsoft. Well, there's a Microsoft guy there, but like Jez, I Luke had posted something about Jez's article, and I reposted on top of that, right? And it's amazing how, when I read Jez's article, that the devs weren't even considered, and it's like someone's like, oh, you know what, the DICE does dev stuff too. I'm like, yeah, they do, but not to this degree. But you would think you're going to be inclusive of everyone. And on top of that, how inclusive is it when the gamers only have 10%? How do we vote with 10% power?
100%. Yeah. So it should be minimum 50%. 50% of the industry, 50% of the gamers that actually buy these games.
It brought me back yet again to real life, right? Years ago, and I know this, for a lot of people, it might be funny. It might be like, what the hell? But I ended up being requested at one point in time to be a judge, right? And this judge was to judge singers. I had to sit there and figure out my method of how I was going to judge these singers. Well, after everything was said and done, the judges go into the back room, and instead of just handing over the paper, the organizer was like, all right, what do you guys have? What do you got? This and this, instead of, like, here's the numbers, here's our opinions and our facts, and just count it and then go from there. Right. All of a sudden the judges started going, well, I think this other singer was better. I think this and this, we should give it to this one. And it's like, well, wait a second. We're supposed to be judging on their vocal talents and the merit of knowledge of song and how they presented themselves up. I mean, all this stuff we're supposed to, even their own presentation, right? So we're supposed to judge on all this. And it's the same thing here. This is why I want transparency, because certain, we just found out that Alana knows that some of these judges that are nominating and putting these games in here have yet to even play a game, right? What do we know about the Oscars, right? They court these, the panels or whatever, they court them, right? They send them flowers, they send them candy, steaks, concert tickets, right? They court them so that way they know, hey, this is my movie. This is, keep us in mind for when you place your vote. All right. So how shady is that they're actually paying them off, right? We don't know what's going on here. I'm not saying that this is what's going on here, but we know this is what happens when we say, if we don't do it from beginning of the year to the end of the year, January 1st to December 31st, this is what happens, because the games that come out in November or after November, right? Because depending on when in November, it never is the same day. There is no cutoff that's always the same. And that's part of the issue is, all right, our game's going to be in here. And it's like, no, our game isn't. Now, technically, this is the snubbing time. This is the time these games get snubbed, is when it's right after the Game Awards, because nobody remembers those games because they were last year. No, they weren't. They were technically last year, but they weren't part of the cutoff date. And that's why, like, Star Wars kind of got their little bit of snub because it lost.
They got that. Well, Star Wars was on the last day, if you remember.
Right.
That was the big controversy. It made it out on the last day of eligibility, right? On that day. Yeah, and it still didn't make it in there.
And they said nope. And here's the funny part. They also had voted all this stuff, and they already know who's winning already. And these games are still coming out before the cutoff. They've already voted their games. So yet again, this is the transparency I'm asking for. We need to have that cutoff let's say it's, and we know why, right? We know why. Christmas is coming up.
Yeah.
Black Friday's coming up. We got all this holiday season of buying and gift sharing for others. Whether or not you celebrate it, you're celebrating gift sharing and giving and the whole.
I mean, at the end of the day, it is a business, but there is integrity that must be maintained, and that's where I see you're going. There is a question. I actually said that in my video, Dreadpool. I said, something, it's funny. And we don't know this because Jeff isn't saying, right? Jeff's not talking about it. Did these 6 nominees already get picked before Forza released? Because that may in fact be the case. That's what it seems like to me.
Right.
And if in fact that is the case, then
right
update. There.
Yeah. If you read there's an update to Jez's article, and there's an update. Actually, I just saw it recently when you go down there, and that is exactly what happened. Even though the cutoff date is like the 19th or something, they were encouraged to make sure all their votes and everything were in by the 4th. And Forza released when? The 5th or something like that.
Yeah.
So even though the window was there, they were not allowed to go back and redo it, which is absolutely ridiculous.
First of all, I expect you to take that and run with it on Saturday. And obviously, we're already an hour and 7 minutes into the show, and we still have the serious topic to get to. And I'm going to let Dreadpool finish. But if in fact that is the case, and if Jez Corden, who is extremely highly respected in the industry for his journalism and his opinions, he wouldn't write that if it wasn't true, right? So if in fact that is the case, that bit of little nugget of information proves that there is something wrong with the Game Awards.
Right. And with them voting early, what's gonna incentivize them to go back and recast their vote for only a couple days? Yet again, they probably haven't played Forza.
Well, they probably did, because a lot of them got review codes. Microsoft handed out codes left and right. So they probably did, in fact, play it. They just didn't bother going back and changing the vote because they didn't want to be bothered. That's the bad message.
That's why I want that transparency.
100%.
I want that transparency. Yeah. I don't care who they voted for. You know what I mean? Because here's the funny part, right? Game of the Year awards, right? It's your opinion. It's just a bigger collective of, let's say it in a bad way here, Metacritic, right? It's a collective opinion of all these people. Now, whether or not there's a narrative, guidelines, it sounds like there's guidelines as to who you're supposed to vote for, who is supposed to get this, and there's a lot of people that are in this. That are making the votes that are very ethical, so it's not to say that they're doing anything wrong. It's just, we don't know where they stand. And with everything going on, here's the other part, right? Everybody's blaming Jeff Keighley. Jeff's just bringing the show. He's not making them vote for everything. We don't really know.
Yeah, but
but he's not the one that's doing this.
But his name and his face are everywhere. So he has a responsibility that when something like this goes wrong, and obviously it's gone wrong, he has a responsibility to say, "Hey, listen, guys, not for nothing, we have to fix this because everyone's blaming me." Now, did Jeff go ahead and do this himself? No, I'm not saying Jeff is wrong. What I'm saying is that this is on Jeff simply because it's Jeff Keighley's Game Awards. He is the producer. So, of course, I mean, who am I going to blame? We can't blame anybody. And I say blame. Blame is such a loosely used term. No one's blaming.
No, he carries the burden of responsibility.
He carries the burden. Yeah, there you go. That's a better way to say it.
Here's the thing with Jeff. He doesn't stop with just that he carries the burden. He sits there and who got snubbed.
Yeah, I said that in my video as well. I thought it was a little trolly, and that's what gets him in trouble from time to time.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. That's why at the same time, it's not really him, but his face is on it. So it's just like any company, right? What's going on with Disney, right? Everything going on right now, it's the new CEO that's doing all this stuff. Whether or not it's all his decision, he's the one that's getting the blame because he's the new face.
Yeah,
right?
Well, he's no Bob Iger, I'll say that.
No, not Bob Iger.
No, Bob. No, I'm saying he's no Bob Iger. Bob Iger was.
He was the man.
I was sad when he retired. To be honest with you,
but still, same thing with Activision, right? We know Mike Ybarra's there, and he's a great guy, but yet he's getting thrown under the bus just because of the people that he's associated with when he just got there. You know, he hasn't been there long enough and he's righting the ship, but yet everything's still going on because of Bob. Bob is still messing stuff up, still being a part of the topics, right? Because he's the face. And this is where Jeff Keighley has that issue. He needs to fix it, not troll it. He needs to,
100%.
Step up and do more. And like I said, this is where that transparency part is that we need to have, because what are the guidelines? If I'm being a judge in real life and for singers and they're still going in the background, and saying, hey, look, I know we voted for this and this is the number, what the numbers state, but we're gonna redirect it to this other person. I think this other person won. It's like, well, why is this even a vote? You just turned it into a dictatorship, and it's supposed to be a vote. This is what, why I want the transparency. And I'm going to keep on saying that we need to see why this is an actual vote. Why is this a collective that have said this? There should be something on here, right? So to me, any game, I don't care when it comes to Game of the Year awards, any game and every game should be included. I don't care how crappy your game is. It should be included in contention. We've had so many killer games that have just didn't have anything, but yet other ones that were lackluster got in there. We're all scratching our heads.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is opinion, but at the same time, you think at least developers being involved, because they would understand the nuances of building their games, the nuances of getting this game off the ground with voice actors or artists or, programmers.
Well, I will say this: it just proves the point that I think there's a general consensus going on within the industry, not just this particular podcast, but I think the general consensus is that because these egregious mistakes continue to happen publicly, not besides shedding a bad light on the Game Awards when it's supposed to be a celebratory event. What it proves is that they may, in fact, and they should, in my opinion, move these awards to the middle of January, allowing for all the games in said year to be judged equally on the same level of playing field, whether it's a 2-man game like Death's Door or a 1,000-man game like Halo Infinite. And again, this is there's no blurred lines here, folks. This has nothing to do with platform. This is what is right, and what is wrong is wrong. If you want to be legitimate, if you want to be able to say said game got its fair shake at the awards, and you want this to be the Oscars, someone wrote a super chat I'm going to read in a second that says that this is more like the MTV Awards, which we know that's a joke, and that is in fact the truth. That is, and I know Jeff wants better. But just finish up your point, brother, and we're going to get on to the next topic, Drake, because I can't wait to hear what you have to say about Bobby Kotick and his death threats that has been confirmed by the Wall Street Journal. Not a good look, and both now Phil Spencer and Jim Ryan have publicly came out against this, and I think Activision is in trouble. But please continue.
No, we'll just leave it there. I've already taken up enough time.
No, you did great, dude. As always, you always bring, again, this is what we love having you on the show, because you always bring fantastic points. As a matter of fact, I'm going to bring it right back around to you first. Then we'll get Kay Asante, because I don't know how long we have him for, because folks, he's working, he's doing double duty. But real quick, let me just catch up on some of the super chats. Sin Vendetta, generous friend of the show, he says something funny. I just can't believe that Elden Ring network test code got snubbed hard from the Game Awards nominees. He dropped a $5 super chat. Raiden Blade said, dropped an additional £2 super chat and says, boom, I did the same thing during Arlana Pierce's video that he rewounded as well. Dan Lazaro dropped several super chats. The first one is, Jeff can't have a bias if he's hosting an industry award show. He's trying to make gaming Hollywood. Gamers will call him out for this. and his show will fail. Indeed. Second one says Hollywood is fake. Gamers are genuinely smart and see through the BS. We just don't want. We won't watch the show. Yeah, a lot of people are going to not watch this show because of it. And I actually like the Game Awards. I like it for what everyone else likes it, for the world premieres, right? Like I like seeing the new games. Raiden Blade drops an additional £5. Super Chat says Game of the Year is sponsored by the games industry. What if they were supported by G4 TV instead? Backing is needed on this funding. What does Game of the Year do then? Yeah, I'm not sure, dude. Honestly, Sin Vendetta drops an additional $5 Super Chat and says, "Boom! If the opinion for a particular game isn't there to vote on for a particular category, then it couldn't be nominated, right?" Yeah, that's a fantastic point. Raiden Blade drops a $2 Super Chat, £2 Super Chat. Says, "Give the gamers more power to vote. Gamers 70% vote. They should be at least 50%, because I hate to say this. I didn't pay for Forza Horizon 5 because I was considered and unbelievably considered by Microsoft to be a positive influencer. They blessed me with the ability to review Forza Horizon. Now, would I bought the $100 edition? Sure, I was ready to do that, no problem, because I love Forza, but I didn't buy it, right? And there are a lot of reviewers that didn't buy it because they were blessed enough to be able to review the copy. With that said, the gamers, the consumers are the ones that are the movers and shakers of the industry, not the reviewers, not me, not GameSpot, not IGN, not Game Rant. They're not. We are just a part of the industry, and we were lucky enough and again blessed enough to review the game. But it's the consumers that move the metrics in regards to games paid for, right? So yes, they should have more of a vote. Absolutely. We got Abacab72 drops a $5 Super Chat and says, if you want a Game Awards show that is more like the Oscars, it's DICE, the DICE Awards. The Game Awards is more like the MTV Music Awards. That's what he said before. Yeah, so thank you for that, brother. Artemis drops, wow, a $10 Super Chat. Thank you for that, brother. He says, good morning, all. BitCloud said Resident Evil 8 was his Game of the Year. That's not surprising because he's a diehard Resident Evil fan like me. He says, but do you find it interesting all of the other nominees, it wasn't nominated for any other award? It seems like a placeholder to me. Like those games weren't nominated anywhere else. I saw the list. I don't remember if that in fact is the truth. If that is the truth, that is a bit of a head scratcher for sure. Hot Grits 910 drops a $5 Super Chat and says, did we stop to think that maybe Jeff had to do this in a way to get Game Awards as far as it is? Forza Horizon 5 is my Game of the Year, by the way. Yeah, I mean it's very political. It's a business, right? I know I'm wearing my heart right on my sleeve here, and I'm very, very upset with it getting snubbed. That's just a fan. I'm not a fanboy. I'm a fan. I'm just disappointed there. I mean, again, it's going to be what it's going to be. I don't think we're going to get a change. It's unfortunate, but the Game Awards themselves, that needs a change, and I will not be quiet about that at all. Space Davigan drops 2 Super Chats. The first one at $5 says, and then you add the Death Stranding 11-8 situation, Jeff best friend game, and coincidentally, Jeff himself has a cameo and said, and yeah, I mean, that's that. A lot of people said, well, yeah, there was some bias there for sure. He says also, Death Stranding will receive 10 nominations that year. That was another big controversy. I mean, the show unfortunately continues down the path of having controversy instead of it being a legitimate show. That's a problem. Dan Lazaro drops an additional $2 Super Chat and says, if they didn't play the game, why are you watching? Yeah, I mean it's a great point. But listen, folks, like I said earlier, double barrel gaming is something that is incredibly important to both myself and Mrs. Boomstick. Now, she does a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that a lot of people don't know about, and that's where she enjoys being. She ever said, hey, Boom, I want to come on the show, then she's on the show. That's never going to happen because she's a bit of a shy person. And again, she loves working in the background because she takes care of a lot of the minutiae kind of things that require attention that sometimes I overlook or I don't see, which is why she's the perfect partner. With that said, as you know, I take this very seriously. I get it wrong sometimes, sure. I didn't do my due diligence, if you will, in the last video that I did where I said there were no first-person games added to the Game of the Year. I got that wrong. I will publicly tell you that I got it wrong. And, again, I make mistakes. What I didn't get wrong, though, folks, is planting my personal flag in the ground of saying that I will no longer support Activision and Blizzard in any way, shape, or form until positive change, until those employees affected by the ongoing shenanigans is rectified. Now, that means people getting fired, potentially people going to jail, people being blackballed in the industry. I never want to see people fired, right? I never want to see people hurt in that way. But if you sexually assault someone, well, then my heart pumps piss for you, because I'm not going to take it. I know that every time I say that,
best thing ever.
Yeah, every time I say that, people laugh. And my father used to say that. He says when he'd get mad at a situation, he'd be like, "My heart pumps piss for you, so don't expect any sympathy." And that was my dad. My dad was a very wise man. I'll tell you that. And that's a funny statement. But I said it then. I said it now. I'm going to say it during this conversation. I believed that any good leader of a company, of a business, of your home, right? You know what is going on in your kingdom. And if you don't, you're a poor leader and you have to be removed, right? Well, I said it then, and I'm going to say it again. Bobby Kotick, or Kotick, as I was corrected, not only knew what was going on within Activision and Blizzard, according to the Wall Street Journal, they indicate that he assisted in covering up multiple instances of sexual harassment at both companies. The word egregious, illegal, immoral, unethical on a level of 1,000 comes to mind. Now, I'm not going to get on my righteous pedestal here and say that that you should listen to my opinion. You shouldn't support them. You support whoever the hell you want to support. I'm not supporting it because my wife is the most important person to me in the world. And I could not look her in the face and say, honey, we're going to play Diablo 4 because don't worry about it. Some of the producers, they raped women in the Cosby room, potentially. Again, these are allegations. I couldn't do that. I would be a piece of shit, pardon my French, if I did that. And I'm not that. I'm not a POS. I'm a man of integrity. I did it as a police officer for 21 plus years, and my integrity and honor were on the top of everything I did then, and they're on top of everything I do right now on this channel. Incredibly important to me. I'll give it up tomorrow if I can't have those two things. If you told me, boom, honesty and integrity, honor out the door, integrity out the window. All right, pack it up. I quit. Sorry, because I'm not going to sell out. Well, why am I bringing this up? Sony Interactive Entertainment's CEO, Jim Ryan, has moved into a higher upper echelon for me personally because it was him that came out first against what's going on in Activision. He sent out an internal email to staff where he apparently linked the Wall Street Journal report and noted, along with himself and other PlayStation leadership, that they were disheartened and frankly stunned to read that Activision had not done enough to address a deep-seated culture of discrimination and harassment. Now, following this, head of Xbox, Phil Dominus Maximus Aurelius Spencer, sent an email to employees within Microsoft at Redmond in which he stated that he, along with the rest of Xbox leadership, are not only disturbed and deeply troubled by the horrific events and actions that are currently being depicted during this Wall Street Journal report at Activision and Blizzard, as reported by Bloomberg. Spencer reportedly goes on to note that Xbox is evaluating all aspects of our relationship with Activision Blizzard and making ongoing proactive adjustments to that relationship. Folks, it has now officially gotten real, because besides the multiple lawsuits that the state of California currently has against Activision and Blizzard, the two biggest platforms are now linking arms, which this should have been done months ago. But as leaders, you have to, it's a business, so you got to make sure that this isn't a politically charged thing against these two companies. You got to make sure that there's evidence to for these grounds, because everything right now is accusations, right? But the question I have for the panel, I'm going to start first. Actually, you know what, Dredd? I'm going to come to you second, because I just want to make sure we get Kay Asante in and out, because he is working. Kay Asante, the question I have for you that I pose, is this the final straw that broke the camel's back? Is Bobby Kotick or Kotick going to be removed by the board at Activision, who were up until this point protecting him?
Oh, I hope so. And it should definitely be. This should have not been the final straw. There should have been a lot more. He should have been removed or reprimanded publicly a long time ago.
Yes.
And
yes.
Credit where it's due. We make fun and we, dance in gym and all of that. But he came out, he was vocal, and we appreciate that. And more of that should be seen across the industry. And of course, Phil was right there, as was, I think, Sarah Bond also put something on Twitter.
Yep.
Very vocal about it. This has just taken far too long to get some actual tangible action, seemingly, action in the environment. And now they're talking about, hey, y'all don't do something about it, our relationship on our platforms are going to change. That's where, foot comes to ass, as they say. Excuse me.
I like that. That's a good one.
That's where it needs to go in order for actual change to happen. And it's just been absolutely insane, like what you just said there. So aptly put. Either you don't know what's going on in your organization and you're a horrible manager, leader, and you need to be removed immediately, or you do know what's going on in your environment, and guess what? You're enabling it, or you're assisting in it, in which case you're even more egregious. And it should, there's no right answer for you. A quick aside, I'm sure it's making the Twitter rounds. You probably have seen it. Gama has come out and basically dispelled the whole scale-bound thing as to why it ended up the way it did.
Publicly apologized for the misdoing of Platinum Games towards Microsoft. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that on Tuesday's Xbox Factory podcast.
Yes.
That's huge, dude.
Yes, I bring this up because how many arrows has Phil taken in the knee for this? Did you ever hear him go? Did you ever hear him go, but it wasn't us? Did you ever hear him speak that way? No, he took those arrows because that's what a leader does. He knew exactly what was going on. He knew exactly why he had to cut bait and get rid of that and close that game and not let it release. But still, mud was in his eye every day for how long now? And I don't even think it was anybody who specifically came out and made Gama say that. It was probably that the news was still getting around it and that story wasn't going away. But I say this to say, this is leadership. This is why you make them big bucks. So when things go wrong, you take it on the chin and you work in the back end to really, really fix the problem. And it seems that Kotick was not only seeing what was going on, he was in that position of, hey, let's keep this money train rolling and we'll do whatever possible to stop these news stories and to stop these problems from not happening, but from coming out. So that guy needs to go like yesterday. If you choose to keep supporting him and you like the games that they play, hey, that's on you. I have no issue with you doing that. But, as has been said aptly on this show by many of the panelists here, we're trying to be people of integrity. We're trying to speak. They say speak with your wallet. Your wallet is a small thing in the grand scheme of things, but When a lot of people speak that exact same way, it starts making actual change. Look at what's happening now. You have platforms that are saying, unless you make some changes, we're gonna have to start changing our relationship with you. If you don't know what that means, read between the lines.
Yes.
We might take your games off our platform.
Yeah,
and that is their bread and butter.
Yep.
If they lose the consoles and they lose Steam, they're done. They're just done. That's it. And there's no way that the board will allow them to lose both console platforms and Steam. Those are the big guys. Yeah, they can have their own launcher. Nobody makes as much money from their own launcher as they do from the existing platforms.
That's correct.
So
100%.
Here's where the money, here's where it's actually starting to make some sense, and it's starting to matter. I just wish it had happened sooner. And anytime you hear some leader go like try to scapegoat or whatever, you know what's happening. They either know and they're malicious, or they don't know and they're foolish. Either way is unacceptable.
Yes. I mean, wow. I mean, fantastic point. But I mean, obviously very true. Dreadpool, you talk about your business all the time, right? And how important it is to your family, how important it is to the work that you do to support said family. We are seeing two of the biggest leaders of the biggest platforms come out, along with some of their employees, like Sarah Bond, who is one of the I just love her to pieces. I just think that she's such an important part of the industry for a multitude of reasons. Come out and publicly say that change has to happen now, not tomorrow, not 3 weeks from now. It needs to happen. I'm imagining that the pressure on these on Activision and Blizzard, they're going to remove him by. I would not be surprised by Monday morning we hear that Bobby Kotick it has been removed as CEO of this company, and there's an interim CEO. Again, where do you fall on how significant the two biggest leaders of the two biggest platforms have now come out and taken a stand?
You remember that time that you had Phil, Reggie, and Sean?
Yes, on stage during the Game Awards. That was brilliant. I loved it.
That's how it feels. It feels like Jim and Phil are stepping out and showing that it doesn't matter. We're here for the gamers. We're here for the people, and it's and like you said earlier, right? They couldn't just step out and say that earlier because allegations.
Yes.
He says, she says. There's just so much that we don't know. And now with more and more information coming out, I'm glad that Jim stepped up. It's cool that Jim is actually the first one to step up, and then Phil follow suit. And that's the thing. Being a leader, you gotta take those hits. You don't put the blame on anybody but yourself.
Yep.
And when people are saying, oh, more employees should have walked out, but guess what? When you got to feed your family.
Exactly. It's hard to do. Easy to say, hard to do. Sure.
Right. When you have people that are like, look, we'll bring a little bit of the politics into this, right? Being unionized or not unionized, right? Join the union because of this, right? Yeah, the union fights for you, but at the same time, they take a cut, or you can't, there's holdups. What happened with the union? They killed Twinkie, right? They killed Hostess, so we lost our Twinkies. All those people lost jobs. Now they came back, but this is the side of business that we don't see all the time, and this is the side of business that people forget. You step up too much too soon without because you think you have power. Eventually, it's going to hurt the people that really matter, and that's your employees. It's the little people, right?
Yep.
So saying, the Blizzard employees, Activision employees should have stepped up and got and walked out, all of them. And it was only a small percentage, that's a disservice to the rest of them, because they got to feed their families, and they're all living paycheck to paycheck. They're not superstars where they're, they could care less and they can go somewhere else. Yeah, they can go somewhere else, but we can't all just pick up and go. There's only so many companies out there. There's only so many positions out there. And depending on your position, there's so many factors that we keep forgetting, and we're armchair quarterbacking business here. We don't know really what's going on. We don't know. And unfortunately, we see what's in the news and we're making prejudgments on all this stuff, right? why didn't these people leave? Why didn't this? Well, sometimes it's part of the business that you have to do this, and then you find out, oh, well, they were kind of brainwashed. If you think about some of this stuff, why wouldn't you speak up, especially when it comes to the bigger heavy hitter allegations, right? The sexual harassment, the sexual assault, the other. I mean, it's all in a way the culture that it was before, right? And this is the culture we have to stop. We have to stop with all this. Treat women as women. Treat them as actual human beings. It doesn't matter if there's a transgender person or a person that goes by another pronoun or whatever. Just treat them as a human being.
Yep.
I don't
there
care.
You go. That's what I'm talking about. Human beings are human beings. That is correct, brother. I love it.
When you're a leader, you need to bring that down and show it across the board, right? What happened at the end of Mixer, there were some racial issues that was brought up to Phil. Phil stepped up and said, we're going to get a hold of you and find out more what's going on. And that had nothing to do with the end of Mixer. It just happened to be right at the end of it. And Phil still stepped up, even though that part of it was leaving. He didn't want that part of it that was still sticking around, that was no longer Mixer, but they're still sticking around. He didn't want that in his organization. He didn't want that underneath his fingers and like still being rotting the company out from within, and that's the thing. We gotta remember that we gotta support each other more than just, this is my fellow podcaster, this is someone that I listen to, no, we got to support each other more than this. We got to support each other mentally when it comes to this. If there's an allegation, we need to find out how factual this is, because unfortunately we have people that mislead and they kind of go from there, and so we have the questioning of, is this true or not? Well, we need to find out first of all, and not go directly against somebody and blame them, but at the same time not tell the victim that they're lying. You know what I mean? We have to go in, and this is why you have HR. You have to go there. If there's a problem, you see something, go to HR. Hopefully, and we know that there is a HR issue too, but hopefully someone will do something, and then if that's not enough, that's where you got to go and talk to somebody else. Jason Schreier, we don't like him, but guess what? He digs and he gets stuff. He gets those answers, right? So sometimes you have to do that. You have to be a whistleblower, and you got to find the means to get it out there and stop this. This is insanity when it comes to this, right? This is supposed to be a business for video games. This is supposed to be a pastime that we get to enjoy and love, that these developers are supposed to be enjoying their work, but they can't even enjoy their workplace. You know what I mean? So it's like, it doesn't make sense with all this stuff. And this is why Bobby Kotick, whatever his name is, I don't give a rat's ass about him anymore. I'm sorry, but
he's gonna have a golden parachute. He's not suffering, right?
He needs that parachute taken away from him.
100%.
Those stockholders
full fat on his face.
Need to say that he's in violation of contract, whatever it is that they need to do. Pull that out from him and let him suffer, right? And then he needs to go to jail and then get some stitches.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, listen, I honestly can't argue. I can't argue with that, but great stuff as always. And from an emotional point of view, from a guy like myself that are considered the cogs that keep their companies going, I see your passion. I appreciate it, and I think it's been well received, Dread, as always. Fuzzy, let's get your opinion on this, brother. Where do you fall on the Bobby Kotick situation? Does Activision need to move quickly on this because of what Phil and Jim had to say?
Kind of echoing what Kay Santi said earlier, as well as even Dreadpool. This should have happened way earlier. I made a prediction back in August that he needs to go. Heads need to roll, and his being the main one. Because leadership, I mean, we always talk about, stuff rolls downhill. I'm not going to curse on your show, but, stuff rolls downhill. Typically, you can't be at the top of the food chain and not know what's going on. I mean, especially when it's $1 billion company. I can understand if it's a small mom and pop shop, you could be running that and not be aware of all the things going on because it's a smaller scale. But even on a bigger scale, you have to, especially when the amount of money or revenue that's being generated by this company is going on. He had to have known, and I kind of had that feeling, having experience from my time in the military as far as reserves with sexual harassment issues with the company I was a part of, as well as the company I worked for, the past 20 plus years. Even when there's a dysfunctional HR, you can kind of tell when things are awry and when things are out of control. And it just seemed like when there's that level of lack of control in this day and age, like maybe in 50s, 60s, maybe even 70s, or up to about the 80s, it could probably be kind of overlooked to some extent. But it just seemed like from day one, there was something else going on, and there was definitely kind of like a cover up in the works, or there was a lot being withheld. Like, you don't usually have lawyers get involved and cases being settled out of court without there being, it's typically where there's smoke, there's fire type of deal. Sure, there can be accusations that are just that and nothing more, but when you're in this size of a company and things like this are going on and whatnot, it seems like they need to clean house at the top. As far as the golden parachute, just short of the board member suing him for not being informed, which I even have my doubts on them not being aware. Because a lot of times
that's what's been put out there, that he specifically held information back from the board. In fact, if that in fact is the case, that is automatically going to be something used to terminate you. But there could be lawsuits involved in that as well. Sure.
Yeah, but I have my doubts they weren't, or at least some of them weren't aware. Because not saying everybody vacations the same place or goes to the same outings or always in the same circles, but usually when you're that high up the food chain, you rub elbows a lot more than just at the country club. So somebody knew something. Now, whether they want to act like it was withheld because it wasn't in writing via email, paper, or recorded phone call type of thing, so be it. But his golden parachute is probably going to go away via the lawsuit method as far as the board going after him. The one thing out of this that I'm torn as far as the support. Like I totally understand everyone's want for like either boycotting any products from that company and whatnot. I don't go quite that far. I'll go as far as where, like, if it's a game I want, I'm going to still play it or get that game. Now, am I going to pay full price, or am I going to make a stink about it when I get the game? Probably, but there are other things that you can do to hold their feet to the fire. But I respect anybody's decision as far as how they go about any Blizzard or Activision games they're forward. I mean, I'm not bothering with Call of Duty this time, and it's not as much about the accusations and charges and other issues going on. It's more so just my issues with the beta, or at least my kids' issues with the beta when they tried it. But all of that aside, he should have been gone. I would say back in September. Yep. I knew something was going to come out. It's only a matter of time. Like when stuff like this comes out, we're going to start getting drip feeds of more stuff. And I'm pretty sure there's even juicier stuff out there that we're still not privy to. But I made this prediction back in August, and I'm probably going to be the unpopular opinion guy here. I see Activision Blizzard shopping outside of their corporate to replace Kotick. And that my prediction back in August is either going to be Sarah Bond or it's going to be Jade Raymond. I know they have.
Well, yeah, Sarah's not going anywhere. That's yeah. The Microsoft would just pay her $2.
Yeah. I know a lot of people don't want those either one of those leaders to leave their current positions. Neither do I, but I kind of see or figured that would be a board room or board member decision kind of thing. But it's bound to happen. But overall, when it comes to these types of things in business, unfortunately, it's still a current day issue. Unfortunately, still you have HRs that are more for the business than the employee. Traditionally, that's how HR works. I mean, on paper it says it's for the employee's protection, but it's really for the business's protection. In all honesty, but with all of that being said, Bobby has to go. The board is going to make sure he goes. It's just a matter of if it's before O'Neill leaves. O'Neill is going to be there until the end of the year. I'm placing bets that Bobby is going to leave before her. Now, it would be nice if they promoted O'Neill or maybe even Ibarra, but there's other issues even with that co-leadership thing over at Blizzard. So it's a big mess. And like I said, cleaning house is about the only way to really fix it. But I sympathize with the employees going through what they've gone through, as far as being in that environment. Because when your livelihood is based on your paycheck, you can only make but so many decisions.
That's correct.
And when you have an HR that seems like, not that they were retaliatory, but I've seen retaliatory HRs when you report stuff and nothing happens, and then magically now you're on the the bullseye or the target of other issues where you're now being moved or released from the company for whatever reason. So it's not as cut and dry as having everything work the way it should. But I totally sympathize with the employees that I get walking out, and a lot of people will say, well, they should have done more. and until they can find another form of guaranteeing their livelihood, that's a hard decision.
A quick aside for me, if I can plug in real quick.
Sure.
What you guys are describing, and I think Dredd also described that, and I completely agree with that. As far as putting the onus on the worker who may be living paycheck to paycheck. This is why, and I had, it was an unpopular opinion when I brought it up, and I still stand by it. This is why they need a third party out of like somebody who does not who's not for either company to step in and be the regulatory mediator between all this. Maybe you have a Sarah Bond and you have a Yumi Yang. She replaced Shannon Studstill at Santa Monica. Maybe just like how you see Phil coming hand in hand with Jim Ryan to say, hey, we denounce this behavior and you guys need to change. Maybe you put those two together from either company to say, okay, this issue rises to the level of being investigated, and have two of them from different companies come together and then make a determination. And based on their determination, you do something or you get publicly shamed or we'll take you off our platform. There needs to be another method rather than making sure it's all on the people who themselves may not have the capabilities to do so. Exactly. I'm sorry, unpopular opinion, but I still stand by it. There needs to be a regulatory body that governs this, because it takes too long to get this kind of action to take place.
Well, I mean, what you're talking about very simply is millionaires versus paycheck to paycheck. The millionaires can afford to sit back and laugh, and the paycheck to paycheck people, which is most of us, we have to take it because, well, we got to pay the rent, we got to buy the milk for the baby, we got to pay the car payment, right? We got to make sure that we have enough money for food shopping to put food on the table. So yeah, that fantastic point, absolutely fantastic point. BitCloud, let's get your opinion on this, brother. You've heard what everyone had to say, but I'm interested to know what you have to say. BitCloud, are you there, bro? All right, he might have stepped away for a hot minute. VJ, I'm interested to get your extremely educated opinion on this. Now, this is, again, what's going on at Activision Blizzard is egregious on every level. Sexual misconduct, potential of even rape has been discussed in this, quote unquote, Bill Cosby room, which is the most out of touch thing I think I've ever heard. Obviously, he was convicted for sexual assault on how many women? 27, 32. It's a ridiculous amount of people. And to have that kind of ideology going on at these companies seems to be unbelievable when you say it out publicly. Where do you fall from a businessman's perspective, because we know that you've been in the business on both ends, but from a personal level, does Bobby need to go?
Yeah, I don't think it's got anything to do with being a businessman. I think you just got to look at it from a human perspective, a human being's perspective. So, and this is all supposition on my part. I'm not as well read into the situation as our illustrious panel, because I think they all made some wonderful and fantastic points. And I know people don't want to be public enemy number one, but I think given the gravity of the situation, I think all thought is welcome, because we're all trying to find a solution or arrive at the truth. So I don't think anything's off the table, and no one should be ashamed of making a point that they feel is valid. So just that being said, I think you got to look at it like this, right? Is there lessons to be learned, or are we simply not learning from past occurrences? And I would suggest the latter. Have Ubisoft execs really paid the price for what occurred over at their place of corporate residence, or have they simply complied with the minimum requirements in order to suppress and quieten the crowd and continue business as normal? Again, I suggest the latter. The seemingly or inevitably inevitable, I should say, outgoing of Activision CEO. I can't even bring myself to say his name. I would hazard a guess and suggest yes, and that he's probably, in my mind, and again, this is supposition, he's not the only culprit at executive level. Typically, if you're a divided board, a group, or even a tribe, or even a nation, if there's an outside threat about to impose on your way of life as you know it, excuse me, Boom, sorry, and you will know you're about to be, well, not about to be implicated, or you're perhaps even a mere suggestion away from being tainted or tarnished with the same brush, and dare I say implicated. You typically see people place quibbles, agendas, and quarrels aside and align themselves and close ranks. And that's what may have happened at Activision till now. Someone, given some of the stuff that's gone on and some of the messaging and the PR statements that have come out, right? And someone, again, supposition, someone has obviously been convinced to speak up, or someone's grown a conscience at executive level, or new evidence has come to light. Otherwise, why has so much time passed since the initial investigation or the date of the original lawsuit for some of this other stuff to come to light? I'm not sure why, and it's a question, right? And I think you got to look at it like this, right? I think that regardless of Activision and Blizzard CEO, there's CEOs in general have a neurotic belief that perhaps they are special and perhaps untouchable when they reach a specific or attain a specific position, right? Not just within a corporation, but in society, and can change the dynamic or landscape, right, of the financial institutions, right, that exist over in Wall Street. And I personally don't think that this particular game of chess is one that the current CEO of Activision and Blizzard and potentially other guilty parties can win. And I hope they don't. History has shown that absolute, and I don't know how to put it exactly, unchecked power in human hands can have devastating effects on people and even nations. And as I say, where there is massive interest in money and desire to rule over others, and I think these are two fundamental or key items to consider, there will always be levels of corruption. And I don't mean to digress, but I'll just do it anyway. But I mean, we were talking about Whitechapel, the effects of the British Empire's colonization and subjugation, and can still be felt 200 years on in parts of the world. And some countries, besides receiving sort of token reparations, have never actually received an apology. So when you look at the, I don't know how best to put this, terrifying revelations, maybe, you have to ask, will justice be served? And what does that even look like today? Is it just going to be a big fine that Activision easily pay without batting an eyelid? Or will individuals be indicted? And look, I don't have a grasp of or understanding of American state or federal law when it comes to corporate law, right? So it's a question that needs answering. What's really sad and sorrowful, it's not just about the Activision CEO, if indeed all the allegations are all purportedly true. Even a wise fool can tell you that such vicious deeds are not only occurring at Activision, it's happening, and worse, in many other establishments all over America, if not the entire world. It's a very human, man-made problem, right? Created out of desire for power. And even if we have a fair and just outcome in relation to the victims, as far as they're concerned, will it be, and I think Kea Sante may have alluded to this, will it be of such magnitude, Boom, that it influences a radical transformation in us as human beings and up and down the country? And I would say it has to be unprecedented. If not now, when do we put the flag in the ground, so to speak? It has to be an unprecedented if occurrences such as these are to cease and then never appear in public view, right? And in terms of is it Jim and Phil, and perhaps even Gabe and Jeff at Amazon, right, have the power, as Dreadpool was saying, right, to commercially cripple Activision and everyone financially associated, and this could help expedite proceedings and rinse the truth out of this whole sort of ugly situation as quickly as possible. And gamers, I think justice needs to be swift. I don't want to see this dragging on for another 5 years, and gamers who are oblivious to this, which, let's be honest, most Call of Duty fans will be all over the world, right, will become aware as to exactly why they can't download Call of Duty anymore. And I don't know if Jim and Phil's statements are just PR to distance themselves from the ugliness, or if they have the balls to act, right? And I don't normally speak like that, so the gravity of the words that I'm using, right, kind of implicate how I feel. So, and Sony did act with CDPR and Cyberpunk. Thanks, BitCloud, for bringing that up earlier. That's a good point. And I would say, isn't this a far more significant and more serious and perhaps even a more appropriate situation for these companies, for the platform holders to act? And I guess time will tell, and we'll find out. And just to sort of finish off, the structure of Sony's and Microsoft's publisher agreements, if anyone wants to raise this as a potential issue, gives the platform holders all the power, carte blanche power, to delist the game for almost any reason. So there's no reason to not have the game delisted. So we're really clear on that. And I know it is mentioned as why didn't the victims leave? And this might be a stretch, and it hasn't. But my point, I guess my point I'm trying to ask is that hasn't this case against Activision and Blizzard has been built over a 4 or 5 year period? Am I right or wrong? I don't know.
Yes, and it's been the investigation going on for several years.
So how do we know that these victims didn't go to HR and didn't find any support there, right, or solace there, and then they went outside of the company? And how do we know that they didn't or weren't asked to remain behind enemy lines and go above and beyond? We don't know, right?
Let me interject here. We do know that their HR was also shady too.
Yes, that's been confirmed that they're 100%,
which caused a suicide because of that HR person.
Yeah, and that even speaks to even more to the victims that perhaps, and again, supposition here, that went above and beyond, remain behind enemy lines, right? So this could all come out, and so it doesn't affect people going forward. And again, it goes back to swift justice, right? And just to finish off, look, I would hope that at the very least that the victims will find some justice, but more so peace and solace. Harmony, I feel, in one's life is very underrated, and we prioritize too much other rubbish in pursuit of contentment, not just for ourselves, but our friends and family around us. So anyway, I'm going to stop there, Boom, because I think I might be putting everyone to sleep.
No. Well, first of all, let me get Kea Sante out of here. He literally has to go in 60 seconds. Kea Sante, brother, before you get on out of here, and he might be actually on a call, I want to just say, listen, the Gaming Circle podcast goes live at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. BitCloud Gaming is going to be a part of that show tomorrow morning. If you're not subscribed to Kea Sante on YouTube, folks, you're doing it wrong. Kea Sante, sell your brand, brother, and let's get you out of here.
I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. I have to unfortunately bounce because of a meeting, but such important conversations, great panel members, always insightful business folks with business backgrounds, folks that understand the industry so well. I learn something every time I sit in that. Either I'm in the chat or I'm a member of the panel. I'm honored and I'm grateful to be a part. Thank you guys so much. Gaming Circle, Saturday, 10 a.m. Mr. BitCloud, who will hopefully be able to join us. Talk to you guys soon. Thank you guys very much.
Absolutely. Well, listen, folks, BitCloud, did you get back here, brother? All right, so he's probably stepped away. What we're going to do, folks, is I'm going to catch up on some of the super chats, and we will get everyone out of here to start your Friday. It is 2 minutes to 12. This has been a great show, great conversation. Everyone that was here really brought their A game. If you enjoyed the show, please consider hitting the like button before you get on out of here. Of course, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. We had a couple of super chats come in. Raiden Blade drops an additional $5 super chat and says, in some parts of the world before, if you committed a crime, whatever you used were removed. You stole, you lost an arm, you assaulted, they removed the offending part. Yeah, I agree to some extent that, you rape someone, you should have your thing cut off for sure. And that may be barbaric for some people, but listen, don't do that. Don't rape people. But I definitely see the point. We have Lonely Boy drops an very generous $10 super chat and says, Activision CEO and board reminds me of the Outer Worlds evil board faction. Shaking my head. Masterful storytelling in that game, but it's an antidote to our sad society. Indeed, unfortunately, you are. I know we laugh, but that's that unfortunately is the case. But listen, folks, thank you so much for supporting Double Barrel Gaming. Thank you for supporting Breakfast with Boom. Last week we took a day off because I had to go to 2 appointments at Mrs. Boom. She's good. A clean bill of health, but I wanted to make sure that she was good to go. And we're back. And hopefully you did, in fact, enjoy today's very, very gripping conversation on both. The most important conversation today was, of course, the ethical conversation of the ongoing shenanigans at Activision and Blizzard. And of course, we started out with, some of the lightweight stuff and on how, the change needs to come in the form of something. You can't have a predetermined list and then tell the gaming community that said game was allowed in because it released at this point. Obviously, I think that now that information is out there, Jeff's reluctance to answer this question, I don't think he can hold out anymore. Eventually, he's going to have to respond to this because that's a big mess up, in my opinion. You can't have a fair awards program if you're telling your mystery board that you have to have your picks in by this, and when a pick comes in after, even though it's eligible, it's not picked. That is a really poor message, and he's gonna be held to be accountable for it. And I think, again, it really does send a disheartened message to the fine folks at Playground Games that, yes, they're not physically or mentally going to be hurt by this, because obviously it's just the Game Awards. It's not the end all be all, but it would be damn good to be able to say that at this year's Game Awards, our highest reviewed game of the year, best launch of Xbox as a platform in 20 years doesn't get the nod. It's actually gross. But let's welcome, let's say goodbye to Fuzzy Belvedere. Brother Fuzzy, thank you so much for being here. Tell everyone where they can check you out on other social media platforms, what other programs you're on, and of course, please, by all means, sell your brand for your YouTube channel.
Thank you so much, Boom, for having me on with this awesome panel with Kay Asante, VJ, Dreadpool, and Big Cloud, and you as well, Boom. You guys are awesome. Chat was awesome today. For anybody interested in my Forza ramblings or anything else gaming related, you can find me on Twitter at Fuzzy_Belvedere. On Mondays with Mav, Fun Speculation, we do the tidbits, which are game releases of the week. And then on Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern, I'm on FSP with Mav, as well as Gaming Key or Just Key. We go over basically all the platforms as far as what we've been playing and news relating to those platforms. And then later that night around 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can find me on the Shop Podcast with PTK Blam, Pong Soul, and Centurion 1307. Just talking shop, basically catching up on what we've been playing on Xbox and things along those lines. So thank you so much for having me. Thanks for everyone that joined us. It was awesome today.
Yeah, thank you so much, brother. Appreciate that. Dreadpool, by all means, brother, tell everyone where they can reach out to you on social media, what other shows you're on weekly, and of course, talk about Breaking Bread with Dread on your YouTube channel.
All right. Well, thank you, as always. Thank you to the chat for being here. I really didn't even have to moderate anybody, which is great. You know,
Yeah,
everybody
the chat
had
is just epic.
great discussions. You know, nobody agreed with each other, but nobody fought with each other. You know what I mean? They all had great discussions with back and forth. So I applaud you all for that. This is the time of year. So I'm going to get this first. I usually say it at the end, but I'm going to say it first or second now, right? If you need to get a hold of somebody just to vent or something, you know, reach out. You know, I'm sure the rest of the panel members here will also say the same thing. Reach out to us. Just DM us. Get it off your chest. You know, myself, I may not know what to say, but at least, you know, you'll have somebody that'll listen to you. At least, you know, there's something there. So people do care. Reach out. Don't do anything stupid. But on moving on, I am at linktree.com/dreadpool, all letters. Just find me there. It's got all the links to everything that you need to find me for between Anchor, iTunes, Spotify for Breaking Bread with Dread, 8 p.m. at Wednesday nights on Gaming Beyond the Box with the rest of the crew, and also on Game Beyond the Box, December 4th. Husk and I are doing a creator feature with Game Pass Dad. So check that out. That's at 8:30 p.m. December 4th. So check that out. What else? I don't know what else, but but no, you know, you all have a great weekend. It's been fun, you know, and if you got to blow a whistle blow. You know, if that doesn't work, find another means. You know what I mean? We got to take care of each other. We are, you know, we are what we need. We need
100%. Oh, you know what? I actually did. Andrew Cullion had dropped a super chat. Let me just let me grab that real quick. Sorry about that, Andrew. He actually dropped a $5 super chat, and he says, "No offense to the people, but I think that 10% is too much choice for the gamers to vote. You have to talk. Have you talked to these people on Twitter?" Yeah, you know what, dude? Here's the thing. I see what you're saying, and you do make some good points, but that community, whether it be Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo knuckleheads, they're less than 10%. They're probably 5%. They're just the most vocal. Most gamers, and I give gamers a lot of credit, most gamers are educated in their, you know, with the way that we talk about games. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I still think that if you gave gamers, us, the ability of more than 10%, even less 50%, I think it would be better suited for the integrity of the Game Awards, which now that we know, based on the information about how this panel was picked, I mean, this panel, but these games were picked before Forza released, then there's no integrity. Then there's a flaw. There's an obvious flaw there, and good on Windows Centrals for bringing that to light, because now what that does is make people wonder whether or not they should support the Game Awards. Should we boycott the awards? Should we tell Jeff we're not watching because this is gross? I don't know if we go there. I don't know if people want to do that. I like the Game Awards. I like them for seeing my favorite developers win the accolades they deserve. That's not going to happen with this game. They may win some other awards, but they're not going to get the nod for Game of the Year. Not saying that they were going to win, but the fact that they would have been nominated for a well-deserved achievement, and now that we know that's not going to happen because this mysterious Illuminati-level board picked their 6 games before this game launched, seems not only unfair but unethical. But again, this is something that we're going to keep going on. I'm not going to talk about it on this program any further because, quite frankly, it's boring. You want to hear good opinions and good subjects. This has been talked to death. I am going to continue to talk about it on social media. You like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. I hear you. VJ, by all means, tell everyone what other shows you're on, and more importantly, where can people reach out to you on social media?
I was just reading the comments, Boom, and everybody's idol Goro says I'm the ever cunning linguist, and I think I'll take that as a very nice compliment. I don't know if it was intended in another way, but I'll take it as a compliment. And I think today's amazing topics and Dreadpool's sort of closing sentiment reminded me that human beings are fragmented, we're contradictory, and we're quite easily torn apart by thoughts and various desires, and we all need someone to speak with. So thanks for that. And anyway, having said that, Boom, I hope my points were balanced, productive, and welcome. And I just want to make sure everyone has a great weekend.
Yeah, you too as well. Big Cloud, brother, I know that you might be busy, hung up, but check out Big Cloud Gaming on YouTube for sure. He's working with IGN. He's done some really amazing things. And of course, we'll return next week as always. But everyone, I want to wish you an amazing weekend. I want to thank everybody for the incredible super chats that continue to come in. And of course, I want to thank you so much for supporting Double Barrel Gaming with your views and likes and subs to the channel. We are 9,100 plus subs, and we are close, less than 900 away from 10K. It's going to be a big deal for this channel, and I hope that you are enjoying the content enough to support us in that push to 10K. But I'll close out the show with something that is important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. I think now more than ever, specifically about some of the topics that we talked about, is ultra important. He used to say, son, treat others how you want to be treated. Also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you, you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom.